This week, I interviewed a Brazilian storyteller and performer, Emilie Andrade. She talked about her experiences of performing in different countries like Iran, as well as how she got into storytelling and performing. Hello, my friends. I hope you're all doing well anywhere in the world. Today, I'm going to talk to one of my friends, Emilie Andrade. Emilie, did I pronounce your last name correctly?
My dog started barking.
Okay.
Yes, Andrade.
Okay. So Emilie is a storyteller and a performer, and she lives in Sao Paulo, Brazil. So I don't speak Portuguese, but I know that they say "Oi, tudo bem?" Yeah, something like that.
Tudo bom? E você?
Yeah,
Tudo bem?
tudo bom. Yeah. So obrigado. I know that one.
De nada.
So tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm a storyteller. To 2020, I'll be my anniversary of 10 years in
Oh,
this.
congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. But before that, I majored in performing arts. Then I studied art education or something like this. And then I specialized in dance and how do you say that? And it's a body and movement technique from Brazil. And 10 years ago, I discovered this world of storytelling, and then I fell in love, and then I focused on that. And since then, I've been telling stories in Brazil, in festivals, some festivals in other countries. I've been teaching and having giving workshops. I have a book. Well, I'm like in love with everything that is connected to this world of storytelling. And then
I know.
I've done a lot.
Yeah, I know you've done a lot of things. So we're going to talk about some of them because we don't have time. So we're going to talk about some of them. Just because, Emilie, some of my audience, actually, they are students. I mean, even high school students. So tell me about the time that you decided to go to college and study performing arts. Because I don't know about the culture in Brazil that much, but generally speaking, it's not one of the top, popular majors across the world. So, would you tell us about that?
Well, I started in drama classes when I was 11.
Okay.
It was something I was really passionate about, but I didn't know what I was going to do for like a profession in college. And when I got the time to go to university, I started thinking about what would I do. And then I started those visits we usually do in universities and to learn a little bit about the
That's okay. That's okay. Go on. That's
dog.
fine. That's like the music for this video. So, so you're talking about campus tours, yeah? When you go and you see the campus tours.
Yes, and they tell you about the courses and you can ask questions. And then I started doing that. I first thought about journalism and something related to TV and radio, those kinds of things. And one day I was in a university, in a college specialized in communication. And they invited a professional to talk about that. And she said, well, you don't make a lot of money. But and then she started her presentation with that. And then I thought, well, if I'm not going to make a lot of money, I should do what I love. And then I decided to go to performing arts and study theater and dance and movement and
so tell me about the reaction of people around you, your family, your friends, and were they happy that you wanted to study performing arts?
Happy is not the word. They were okay. That's what you like. I remember my dad, he said, why don't you do something that make you a little bit more money, and then you can do this as a side
I see.
thing. And then I said no. And in my case, in my story, I became a mom really young. I was mom when I was 18. And
Wow.
then this helped me to choose something that I was in love, because I thought to myself, I'm already living a life that's not exactly the one I wanted to. And I decided to go for it, to say, no, that's what I love and that's what I'll do. I had no idea what to do. And every time people from my family, they would say, ooh, when I'm going to see you on TV, on a soap opera or something. And then I would explain, look, it's like medicine. You have pediatrician, you have cardiology, you have many areas. I'm an actress, but I'm not only going to do TV or soap operas.
Yeah.
I always had this thing for alternative theater, for things that were different. So I knew I wouldn't be on TV. So the only shot I had, the only chance I had to get some money, I knew it wasn't for me. And then I found out discovered the storytelling world, and
that's really interesting. So let me ask you a question about the time that you said you became a mom at the age of 18, and kind of this drama performing art, it helped you in a way. So tell us more about that. How did your experience as a storyteller or a person who became interested in stories, drama, that helps you to grow as a person or as a mom?
Well, I've been in theater, studying theater since I was 11, as I said.
Yeah.
So I always felt that when I was in drama lessons or in dance lessons or in the arts, it was a place that I could be more of myself. The teachers were different. The room was different. We had no chairs. We had no desks. We had books. We had stories. We could be more close to who I was in my life. I don't know
exactly.
when you are in a regular classroom, you have to sit, you have to stay in a way, to talk in a way, only to talk when you are allowed to, all of this. My school was like this. I don't know. Maybe today we have more modern schools, but my school wasn't like that. So in drama lessons, in dance lessons, I could be more of myself. And I think the arts are exactly this for us, even if you are not an artist. In that, when you connect to music or to a movie or to a story, it's something very deep in you that is connecting to that piece of art. So
it wasn't just the major itself. It was that, of course, but at the same time, the kind of experience that you had as a person to be part of that community, to perform with others, and to get that feeling of being, connected to other people through performing, and that's really interesting. And let me ask you this, Emilie, how do you see that experience now after, you said 20 years, almost 20 years?
Yeah, since I graduated 2007.
So when you look back at your life and you remember that moment that you decided to get into performing arts, so how do you feel about that decision now after 20 years?
As a storyteller, I know that no stories or no journeys are a straight line, you know?
Yeah.
So
they're dynamic.
So I'm very grateful for that choice, because when I was in university, I met a teacher. She was connected to this. Sorry.
That's okay. Don't
Kids
worry.
and dogs.
That's okay. Okay.
So my teacher, I had one specific teacher. She is my friend to this day, and she was connected to this narrative theater. I don't know how if that's the word in English. And my graduation performance was based on a book. So we would not change the gender of we wouldn't adapt the book to a drama piece, to this theater writing.
I know, like a play.
Yeah, like a play. We would do it as narrators. How would that movement happen? And then I started to get interest to this narrative theater, how that works. And when I look back, I know that even though I'm not an actor anymore, in the straight sense of the word,
in the traditional way of it,
I know that choice led me to where I am today. Because when I started telling stories, my background helped me to work with audience and the voice. I had a lot of experience in that. Although they are different. The actor and the storytellers, they have different
for sure,
things, and it's a different job. but we have many things that are connected. So it helped me a lot. So in that sense, I'm grateful because it led me to where I am today. And of course, there are many things that could be better, of course. But
so I know that you have a lot of experience performing abroad in other countries. So just tell us about your international experiences.
What happened? Something really interesting happened to me when I started telling stories. The day I decided I'm going to become a storyteller, I always been in love with writing. I have no technical study, anything. It's just like writing is something that is part of my life. So
creative writing.
Yeah, I started a blog. Storyteller, and I would tell where I would go, what I was reading, what I was preparing, and
I know.
Months after I started this blog, I was invited to a TV show in Brazil.
Wow.
And all the effort I was having, all the trouble I was having to work as an actor before, when I decided I'm going to be a storyteller, it was like the doors would open. So I started telling stories in 2010. 2012, I was invited to Dominican Republic to a festival there. And in the same year, I went to Cuba to another festival. Then a few years later, I think I went to Iran, where I met you. Then I went to Mexico, and I went to a retreat and some studying with some storytellers from United Kingdom. So I think that those are the places I've been, and it's always beautiful because stories are so connected to culture. That the English is like
this is really weird, Emily. You're making me laugh more than I'm making you laugh. So this is weird. You know how it goes all the time. So
the fun one is you. So the funny one, and so it's always a beautiful experience to travel and as a storyteller, because you get to hear so many stories and so many storytellers, and storytelling is a kind of art that is so close to life. So close to life.
Yeah, thank you. Let's focus on your experience in Iran. So just tell us about what happened.
Well, it was like a dream because I've never dreamt about going to Iran. It's like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Did you know anything special about Iran before coming to my country?
No, I knew was about the war, the Iran-Iraq war.
Yeah.
But very little because I was kind of youngish, so I just have the memory of listening a lot in the news. I knew that the Persian magical and very ancient culture, but not very, very specific. And yeah.
So tell us about the experience itself.
It was very interesting. One thing that it was very weird is the not touching thing, because we Brazilians are very warm.
I know that.
And we like hugging and we like touching, and we are touching each other all the time. I think we are even more than Americans, right? We are North Americans. We are, because we are Americans as well.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but in Brazil we say Americans to people from the United States. That's really weird.
Yeah.
And this was very difficult for me because all the time I was touching people. I was touching you. I was touching. when we were going to take a picture, I would hug and then I would do like this, and then that was weird. And when the time we were saying goodbye, this was the hardest moment because I could not hug you and I just like, bye. It's so weird.
It was so formal.
Yeah, so weird. And it was like, for me, it was emotional not being able to do that, because for us,
I remember all of you crying and everything at the airport. Yeah, I remember that. And I was laughing.
Yeah. So funny, right? Yeah, but for me especially was interesting. And one thing that happened, I mean, I don't know if you have a memory of that, but I do. Hijab, right? The hijab.
Yeah.
We were supposed to be with that all the time, and I remember watching my friends on stage and thinking, well, when my time comes, I have to put some hair clips so this thing would not fall. And then I was late. They came to pick me up. I was late. I arrived at the theater late, and the guy with the puppet was already presenting the thing. I was first one, so I ran. I couldn't find my hair clips that I had put a bunch in my purse, and then I was really excited. And when I got on the stage, the thing started falling. My hijab fell, and for 1 second I thought, well, I will pretend nothing happens and I would just keep going. But then I remembered all my training in dance and all of this, and to be present, and I said no. Then I stopped and I said, one moment. I went to the table, fixed my hijab. I remember there was a bunch of kids, a bunch of girls from a school, and I said to them, guys, next time if it fails, let me know, because I didn't feel. And then I went back to the mic and I said, I'm sorry, thank you, and everybody clapped.
So, did you share your experience when you went back to Brazil with other people?
Yes, I felt something different from the other places, because it was such a special place and your culture, or the Islamic culture here in Brazil, is not very known. People don't know anything or much about it. We don't have a big community here.
Yeah, I know.
And I felt the responsibility of talking a little bit about what I've learned, what I saw, what I heard. So I created a special performance about.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I called Persian tales, something like this, and then I do it in a way that I never do it. I have photos of the trip. So
Oh, I see. So
I
you
connect.
use the pictures.
Yes, I connect the stories
Okay.
with pictures of the trip. So I tell about the food, I tell about you guys, the people I knew. I showed them pictures. I've done it a few times, and I did it with my colleagues, storytellers too.
Yeah, that was a very good experience, I think.
Yeah,
it was really good and exciting. So would you tell us a little bit about your project that you started last year, about that Brazilian writer and a storyteller?
Yeah, actually she's not a writer. She didn't know how to read, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, she was what we call a traditional storyteller. She was a woman that was living her life, and then she knew many stories, and she would tell the stories to the children and to the grown-ups from her village. And one day, a professor in a university started a project of recording storytellers from that area of Brazil, and he met her. And then he discovered that she had many stories to tell, and then she would record, and she kept telling stories, and he recorded 242 or something. And then this professor would call her Sherazade, the Brazilian Sherazade, the character from 1001 Nights.
Yeah, she means Shahzad. Okay.
Yeah, it's my Portuguese.
Yeah.
And now I've been to that university to listen to all her stories recorded, and now I'm preparing a performance telling her story.
She's still alive, yeah?
No, she died in 1982. She was 70. She was born in, I think, 1926 or something.
So you had the chance to listen to her voice, yeah, which was recorded many years ago. Okay.
Yes.
I think we need to thank that researcher or the professor who started recording all these stories.
His name is Altimar Pimentel. He's a professor from oral literature. And
Emily, if you give me $1 million, I cannot pronounce that name. Would you say it again?
Altimar Pimentel.
Yeah, exactly what she said. Okay. So, and do you use those stories to teach kids or adults?
Well, I'm since 2017. I'm just telling. I'm more focused on adults. I don't know how it works for you in Iran or in the US, but in Brazil, most of storytellers work with children. Is what we are more hired to do in schools, in cultural centers, to work with kids. But I started watching the parents when they were with the kids, listening to my story.
Interesting.
And they were so moved by the stories, and they would come and talk to me afterwards. And then for a personal preference, I like working with grown-ups. I used to teach drama to grown-ups, and then I thought it would be interesting if I focused more in grown-ups, because children, they can access this fantasy world that the stories invite us. Really, it's part of their way of being. But grown-ups,
part of their identity, I mean.
Yeah. So they can shift to that world easily.
Yeah, very easily, yeah.
Yeah, but grown-ups, no. We live in very, I don't know how to say that, arid, dry.
Kind of isolated, you mean?
Yeah, and difficult times for.
I see.
For people, right? working so hard, having no time to connect with themselves, and
So, Emily, if I end this interview without asking you about football, I know my friends will kill me. So, would you just tell us about how important it is to your culture, how important football is, and do you see any connections between the storytelling and football?
Well, my team is called Corinthians. It's from a team from São Paulo.
Yeah.
It's one of the biggest. People say that Flamengo from Rio de Janeiro is the biggest, but maybe number of people that are from that team. But Corinthians is like the best one. They call us the crazy ones. And why I'm talking about Corinthians, not because it's my team only, but it's it's a team connected to social and democracy, and they are when we had our difficult word to say, dictatorship.
Yeah, dictatorship.
Yeah. Corinthians was a very big team, and their players were very engaged against it. And football is part of our culture, but not many teams when football became a business only. You know?
Yeah, that's the sad part of it. So a lot of money, and then the values are lost. So I thought that would be my last question, but I have another one. So, you know, some of the Brazilian writers and novelists are really famous in Iran, like Paulo Coelho. You wouldn't be surprised to hear that. Yeah. So just tell us about him and others, if you want to introduce any books to our audience. Because, you know, everyone has read The Alchemist and other works, you know.
That's the only book I read from him.
Seriously?
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you. Can I tell you a secret?
Yeah, just one thing. Is he as famous in Brazil as he is in other countries?
That's the secret.
Okay.
He is famous. Everybody knows him. But some people, like the intellectuals and the people from you would say are the people who decide who is good and who isn't.
Yeah.
We have
like
an account.
Like the literary critics, critics.
Yeah, he's like he's like almost like a joke. People would say seriously. People would say, he just, if you want to make fun of someone who is not who doesn't read a lot, you would say, you just read Paulo Coelho. That's not. This is
how. God.
Yeah.
It's good to know that.
Yeah.
So who is the top one when it comes to all these reviews? And
we have a poet who is called Manuel de Barros. He is one of my favorites. We have another one who is Guimarães Rosa. He's one of like the magical writers. He created a language, so he mixed the oral, the way people talk, with poetry, and it became something really interesting that I think it's really difficult to translate. But Guimarães Rosa, Clarice Lispector. Do you ever heard of her?
No, unfortunately.
She's like one of our best, and I think she's kind of the translation of her work is more possible than Guimarães Rosa.
I see. And just to let you know, I think you may know this, but I'm a fan of Paulo Freire, and I enjoy reading. Yeah, his books.
This Paulo he is like amazing. This one we all know.
He was a legend.
He's a legend. Yeah, he's a very big outside Brazil as well, and his work is still this day is reference and is our way of thinking.
So thank you so much, Emily, for giving us your time, and I hope to be able to talk to you later. Thank you so much.